trying to get this shaft apart. I didn't realize, even though I had it up on a block, setting outside, never thought about the snow getting down into it. Now that my neighbor needs some help with some fence posts, it likes a foot of being able to touch to hook up. The rust is inside has got it all frozen. I broke 2 ropes and 1 small chain trying to get it apart, and so far still trying to get it apart, see what happens. Either it comes apart or it breaks, I'm not sure which. Unbelievable. I got a tree here, it's about 6 inches around, and it literally is going to pull the tree out of the ground. I got this shaft about to pull over a 6-inch tree. I decided to go to a bigger tree to see what I can do. Not having any luck at all. I've got this around about a 2-foot tree, and this shaft is locked in there so tight. It's literally, I can see the roots trying to pull up out of the ground. Unbelievable that something can rust and get that tight. And it's not because it's bent. It just rusted from sitting out for about 10 years. Well, I'm trying to knock the pin out of that hole, but to find the right size piece that I need has been very, very hard. I've tried all kinds of things, either too big or too small. I got to get that off to get this cover completely off so I can get more to the shaft, see what has to be done. Finally got this pin out of the shaft. Took a long time because you got to have something special. All I had was 2 different size punches. You can see this has got a split right down the middle. And I used a pair of vice grips once I got it part way out and pinched it together where it makes it just a little bit smaller. One end is beveled, which I imagine that is the end that you drive back in. But if you're not careful, what happens, the punch, as you're driving it out, it'll go through the first hole, but once it gets out there, then it'll start going down through here and driving down into and open it up. Then it's way harder to get out. So you got to make sure you use something that is almost the exact same roundness as that one there and not a point. Well, trying to get this apart again, I've been soaking it down with WD-40 and some type of rust remover off and on for about 2 weeks, and it does not want to come apart. Without this part, your post hole digger is no good. To replace this part's about $150, and I don't use it, but you can't sell it if it's broken and don't work. And my neighbor needed help. So the reason I got involved in this was to try to help him, but we end up digging them by hand. Unbelievable. After trying for hours and hours, finally got it broke apart. That other stuff that I've been putting down through there, now I can repair it and put it back together, and this time I'll store it in the barn. But that broke it loose, so it was worth the trouble. The stuff that I was soaking it down with and spraying down in there with, like I said, I probably soaked it down about 15 times. Let it sit for about 2 weeks. I was pulling trees over, small trees over, even though they were a foot around, trying to get it out. And I end up using this blaster penetrating oil. It's supposed to bust rust and stuff loose. After soaking that shaft down for about 2 weeks, it broke it apart. Can cost me about $8 or $9, or maybe it was $6, but well, now I gotta assemble and put this back together and drive this pin back into it. I do have the shaft where it will slide in and out now. I've been trying to get this together for the last half hour, and I just can't get these holes to line up with this hole and this hole. These little screws right here that have a kind of a hook on them. Well, I forgot this piece right here it's got a little slit in it, and you have to put it up over the neck on this collar. So that's why it's not quite going all the way down. So this has to go up on the collar. Then this slides up and goes through the hole, and then this slides on here and matches with this hole. Then you put this in and turn it, and it puts this connection safety piece back on. Another thing on this shaft, you got one end that's bigger than the other because this piece here slides inside. So even though these pieces look the same, and these collars seem to look about the same, one set goes in the small end and one set goes in the large end, because I just had trouble trying to get it together and figured out what it was. And then these little screws right here, once you get all this lined up, the inner piece, this piece, and this piece, this just goes down through there. Might have to pop it in with a hammer, and then take your screwdriver and twist it so that it's snapped and locked all this together for this safety shield. But it's been a while since I've had this apart, and I about forgot how to put it back together, and naturally I'm doing it backwards until I finally figure it out. But one end is for the small and one end is for the large, and it does make a difference when you start putting it all back together. This is a shaft for a post hole digger that I made the mistake of leaving setting out, even though I had it covered many times and had the other end protected and off the ground. Just the weather, the rain, the snow, the ice rusted the whole shaft up, and it took a bunch to get it apart.